ladies and gentlemen, today our guest is a Union Homegrown defender, played for the first team, also Bethlehem Steel alum, for those of you that remember that USL team, and is currently on loan to the Colorado Springs Switchbacks for this year. Our guest today is Matt Real. Matt, how you doing today?
Thank you guys for having me. I'm doing great. I can't complain. Life is good. Different scenery, but still enjoying life, and happy to be out here.
Great. Well, it's really beautiful scenery out there. That's for sure.
It is, no doubt about that. So I wasn't really familiar with the area before I came here, and I was obviously in Denver before, but the Springs is about an hour away. So when I got here, I was really taken back by the scenery and the mountains. There's so many trails to go on and hikes to do. So there's never a time where there's really nothing to do. There's always something.
Yeah, we loved it. We visited Colorado Springs last, I guess, 2 Mays ago when Union played at the Rapids. We went to that game. So yeah, so we loved it though. Let's get into it.
So Matt, tell us how you got into soccer in the first place, who inspired you to get into sport, and then what was it like going through the academy ranks early on, and who were your support systems?
For sure. So I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but the background cultural, I'm Brazilian. So my dad obviously got me into the game for that reason. Soccer is the biggest sport there. So since I could remember, I would say probably 4 or 5 years old, he would always have like me training with a little ball around the house, but it was just for fun. It wasn't serious at the time. He didn't want to force it on me, obviously. But at the same time, it was something I picked up and I grasped pretty quickly. And I grew a quick passion for it. So since the age of 4 or 5, he put me in, the local teams, the YMCA, little league teams, whatever you want to call it. The local Upper Darby club team from where I was originally from. And then from that point, I just kept kind of progressing. So my dad found out about an opportunity where I could go on trial for a team called Lower Merion Soccer Club. And at the time, they were like the biggest thing in the area. We just didn't have any connections to really get in there. So we kind of just had to go online, search when the tryouts were, all those types of things. So I think I originally showed up. It was an open tryout with about a couple hundred kids. And Lower Merion has A, B, C, and I think D as well, all levels of teams. So when I first got there, all the kids, they kind of knew each other already. So I was just kind of the odd one out, but I ended up doing well enough that they had selected me to be on the A team. So that kind of was the first, I would say, major stepping stone in my career, because that kind of put me on the map in the area of all the, elite guys at that age, which I think I was about 9 years old, which is still really young to talk about elite, because, kids develop as late as 17, 18 years old nowadays, So from that point forward, I was obviously around a lot of different type of people with different connections, different eyes. I had been at a camp that at YSC, which was called Rocket Sports at the time. And then, that was when the Union was getting ready to introduce their MLS team into the Philly area. So I got lucky enough that the scouts over at YSC or Rocket Sports at the time, they were just starting a little training program that was 2 times a week for the best kids in the Philadelphia area. So I ended up, it was called Union Juniors. I made that. Now that wasn't even a club team. That was more of a training program, So you kind of just show up 2 times a week. At the same time, you're still with your original club team, So that wasn't even a team yet. So I was doing that for about, I think, 2 to 3 years until they introduced the real academy. So from that point, when they introduced the academy, everything kind of skyrocketed from there. I left Lower Merion, which turned into FC Dalco. And then, I was in the youth team since I was 13 up until, still to this day, I'm still in the system, So through the academy, though, it was a great time. I have, some of my closest friends still that I play with to this day. I'm still in contact with them. But yeah, it was an experience that I'm really grateful for. And I'm really grateful that, obviously I recognize not many kids, especially at the time that I was there, make it out all the way to the first team. Now it's a little more common. You see, MLS teams signing more and more homegrowns, which is good because the game is growing so much more in the US and we need that. But like I said, I'm really grateful that out of those, core group of kids that I was with, I think it was maybe me, Fontana, Mark McKenzie that were in the same team, and then obviously Brendan came after us a couple of years later. So, but yeah, really thankful and grateful, and it's been one hell of a ride.
For sure. And like, how supportive were your parents during that whole transition, going through the academy and all that?
Yeah, major. They're everything. Without
Mhm.
them, nothing would be possible because I didn't even live close. They still, don't even live close to the training facility where they have to drop me off every single day. Especially when I had made the transition to join the YSC school, they had to drive me every day. It was like probably a round trip, like an hour and 20 from my mom up and back, and she had work afterwards. So she would drive me in the morning to school, pick me up at night. She would do that two times a day, the trip up and back, so it's a pretty crazy round trip for her. But, they believed in my ability and they also knew I had a dream that they wanted to help me accomplish. So obviously without their support, of course my dad, throughout my whole childhood, he was the reason I got into the game.
Mhm.
He was always nitpicking at things I can get better at, taking me to the field in his free time when he wasn't working, to work on my weaknesses and things like that. So yeah, both of them played a major role in my development and helping me get to where I am today.
Awesome. I mean, that support is everything. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, so you joined Bethlehem Steel and became teammates with your current head coach, James Chambers.
Right.
I'm sure both Union and Switchbacks fans would be curious to hear what your thoughts were of him as a player and a teammate, and any good memories of those times.
Yeah, for sure. So everybody knew, my first year, I think I was 16, 17 playing with him. Immediately, he's just a great guy. Always welcoming all the young guys into the locker room. He is the type of guy where he's really intense, but everything that he does, he says, that he tells you, it's all in your best interest. And it's out of the kindness of his heart. He wants you to do well. He's not doing it to be, an ass. You know what I mean? He's doing it because he wants you to succeed and he wants the best for you and the group. So for me, I always really respected that about him because when you're in professional environments, there are sometimes guys that they're like that, but you don't know if they have the right intentions. They're just doing it to be mean or, because you're the young guy. But he always cared about helping the young guys develop as a captain of the group. As a player, he was a great player. He has, still to this day on the field, he has like great technique. And that was like the strongest suit of his game. He can spray a ball, got a great touch. Unfortunately, I only got to play with him at the back end of his career when it was like his last 2 years, I think. But it was still a great time. And, him as a coach, it's literally the same transition. Him as a player to him as a coach, same type of style. Obviously a little more intense because he's a coach now. So he has a little more, pull and power to kind of control the team the exact way he wants to. But I've loved it so far. And he holds every single person accountable. He doesn't care who you are, which is great because in an environment that's successful, you can't have guys separating and being, starting getting little groups in the team, talking bad about this guy, talking about that guy. He keeps us level, so I think it's really important. And, hopefully we can continue the run of form that we're at right now in this point of the year.
Any fun stories from your Bethlehem Steel days?
Bethlehem Steel days, fun stories. Let me think. Fun stories. I'm not gonna lie. It was for me. It seems so long ago. I don't really have any fun stories. It's more of just good memories. Just because that was my first year as being a professional soccer player. So getting the experience, the games, that was the number one thing. Because at the time, obviously, I wasn't even signed with the first team yet. So I was trying to prove myself as a young guy still. And there are so many experiences that I had to go through during that time to learn. And of course, it was really tough because I was in a situation where I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it to the first team. So joining that team to begin with was a big risk because I was giving up college, and Wake Forest, which could have been a great education. But like I said, I felt like everything panned out the way I wanted it to, with great teammates. Unfortunately, not a lot of those guys, those core guys that I played with that year, they didn't really stay around in the system because the direction of the program kind of changed a bit. They wanted younger guys. But I'm really happy that I'm still able to work with Chambo, Hoagie as well, who he was the assistant on that team. Now he's a sporting director here. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
Speaking of, that's the story I heard, that you were looking to go to Wake Forest. So what ultimately led you to say, you know what, college can hold off, I'm going to go sign a homegrown deal? What was your ultimate, decision to do that?
Yeah, for sure. My dream was to be a professional soccer player. Simple as that. I didn't really care about all the other little things that people would tell me about education. Obviously, it's important, and the one thing that I took away was that education is always there. You can always get that. You can't get back the youth, the youthness of your career, should I say? So if I'm at the time I was 17 years old, if you go to college, you're potentially losing 4 years of pro development. So by the time you're 21, 22, you're playing with guys who have been pros since they were 17, and you're kind of behind in that sense. So if I really wanted to succeed in this profession, I felt like the best thing to do was to not go to college. I'm not saying that that's the wrong path, because some people go on that path and they have great careers. They're in Europe, or right at this moment. Mark went a year to Wake Forest, and look at him now. So everybody has a different path, but me specifically, I felt like that was the best route that I needed to take, and I'm happy I did.
All right. So before we dive into your time in Colorado Springs currently, can you talk about some memories to this point in your career with the first team at the Union, and who's given you the most advice during your time there? Who have you been closest with?
Yeah, for sure. So some good memories. Of course, winning the Supporters Shield in 2020, bringing the first trophy to that club was a great experience. That whole season was a bit just strange, because there was a lockdown, and then we had to go over to Orlando. But I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed it a lot, just because it was different. But we were really successful, and we knew what we had to do, and everything was working. Our system was working. Our style of play, teams couldn't figure it out, so that was probably my most memorable year with the team. And then, of course, the MLS Cup, that was a great memory, even though it stings still to this day, just a couple minutes away from winning that. It was still a great experience, just a ride, knowing how good of a team we had that year. It almost felt like, especially at home, we were unstoppable, like unbeatable, so it was really cool to be a part of a team that was that strong and powerful in the league, and we had a good reputation. A lot of people counted us out that year, but we continued to prove everybody wrong. So that was definitely really cool to be a part of. And then you said mentors, something like that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, mentors, for sure. Since I joined the team, obviously Coach Kurt, Coach Jim, he always would, give me advice on what he thinks that I need to be better at and what I need to work on, which is, of course, it's his job, and he did a really good job at it, explaining to me the reasons why I wasn't getting the time that I wanted, and of course I always understood the reasons. But for me, it was more of just, I needed to find a balance of what's good for myself as well as what's good for the team. So during my years with Philly, I took an approach to training that, I was going to train every single day really hard to help improve my teammates, be ready when called upon, which is something Jim always instilled in me, because that one moment that you get, that one opportunity, it could change a lot just with one game, 2 games, So for me, I took that approach, coming to training every single day, pushing the starters, getting them ready for the weekend, But ultimately, I felt like I also could provide something as well, more than that, you know what I mean? So that's kind of why I made the decision to, challenge myself and go on loan, because I felt like it was definitely a necessary step to take, that I needed to show myself to everybody what I'm capable of, because I didn't feel like I was, really getting that. So yeah, but like I said, there's no hatred, no bad blood, none of that. It's been a good time in Philly. I miss it right now. Of course, I love where I am, but I miss Philly. I miss that team, and I watch every single game that they play still to this day. So yeah, I'm happy to have gone through that whole system with meeting the mentors that I did. I consider myself really lucky going through those experiences, but hopefully, one day I'll be back over in Philly. So.
Absolutely. Speaking of the loan, when you got word that you were going to Colorado Springs, knowing what you said about Stephen Hogan, knowing, James was going to be there as the head coach, and I think even Matt Mahoney was the captain at one time, who's the captain now.
Yeah.
How easy is that? Like just saying, oh, wow, I know these guys. So I'm going to a new environment now. And, I have previous relationships with these people.
Yeah, it definitely made the transition so smooth for me. I was in contact with Chambers for quite some time. He's been trying to get me over here for a bit. And, it just things needed to make sense, on my end, on their end, on Philly's end. There's three parties, it has to be the team that's getting you, my team, and then myself, so everything had to make sense. And then we finally got to a point with all three sides that we felt like it was the right move to make. So when I did come, like I said, it was a seamless transition for me. I knew what Chambers demanded because he's a very high demanding coach. So that made it really easy for me. I didn't really need, I would say, an adjustment when it comes to the teammates because the teammates are great. It was more of just getting game fitness for me because, like I said, it was so long since I played a full 90 minutes consistently. I've played 90, in Philly last year, but it was never like back to back. It was more like 1 month on, a couple appearances, then another one. But here it's more consistent. So it was just finding my footing and getting more and more confident each game that I play.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. So where have you felt the Switchbacks have used your strengths to benefit the team?
It's a good question. Where do I feel like the Switchbacks have used my strengths? So I do feel like, the coaching staff and the players know that I am one of the more experienced guys, which is funny to say because coming from Philly, I'm one of the younger guys still, So coming here, I'm one of the more experienced guys. So they know that, and putting me, a part of the back line, I think right away, we just needed to sort some things out because before I came here, we weren't having great results, but at the same time, we were having good performances, so it was just cleaning up the little mistakes in the back. I'm not saying I'm the reason that, everything changed, you know what I mean? But it did feel good to come in and help contribute to win and get some good results off the bat. So I feel like for me, it's just experience, because with these guys, a lot of these guys are straight out of college, or a lot of these guys only have 1 or 2 years under their belt. So, I'm always looking to give guys advice or, even just solve little issues that we're having within the group when it comes to tactical issues or communicating with the coach. It's a very open dialogue here. It's not like, the coach doesn't allow anyone to give their input. So I'm always giving my input on what I think we could do to make a situation better or fix something. So I think that's definitely one of the ways that I'm using one of my strengths here.
Two things. One, what was it like adjusting? Because I've been out to the Olympic Training Center, both as a swimmer and a coach.
Right.
And training in that altitude is quite different than, training here in Pennsylvania. What was that like? And then also, you guys played El Paso. Brendan Craig's out there right now. So kind of talk about how cool that was to see here's another teammate on loan, playing in the USL. So
for sure. Yeah. So like you said, I was aware of the altitude before I got here. And I've played a few games in altitude in Denver. That was actually where my debut game was, but it was so long ago that it was kind of hard to remember exactly how the experience was. So when I first got here, I remember vividly. I went to the training facility, our stadium, and they gave me a little tour. And I was like, I'm just going to go for a little jog because I got off the flight. I needed to get my legs kind of just moving. So I went for a jog and I was like, oh my goodness, this is really strange. I never felt like this at altitude. And it is the highest stadium in the US for soccer. big
Mhm.
stadium. So I was a bit taken back by it. I wasn't worried because I knew you get adjusted, but I was just like, wow, like I wonder how long this is going to take. So I was talking to the staff, I was talking to the guys, asking them how long it took all them to get adjusted. Each of them told me about a couple weeks, a month, whatever. So that week of training, I was actually going to start that weekend. So that whole week of training, I was kind of trying to push myself a little extra, that extra step, that extra mile, just so I could be fully ready for the weekend. And when the weekend came, surprisingly, I didn't really feel it in the game, to be honest. I guess I'm kind of lucky because I know some guys takes way more time than that. But I'm not even gonna lie, to this day, it's still tough. It's never you can always feel the difference when you're here. It's never easy when you're in the tough parts of the game for that reason. And at the same time, it's a big advantage for us because we do train here every day. It is hard for us still, but whenever teams come here, they don't train here at all, and they have to play one game here. So
Mm.
it's a lot. It's a huge advantage in my opinion, and I actually really like that aspect of it because there are some games that you're in where you can sense the other team is getting tired in the 20th, 30th minute. Those are the minutes in the first half where it kind of hits you a bit. So it's definitely it was definitely a really tough adjustment at first, but I would say now it's better. I still feel it, but you got to deal with it. Everyone's got to play here. It's not like I'm the only one at altitude. Every single person.
Right.
And BC, yeah, me and BC were really close in Philly with all the young guys as well. It was really cool seeing him. Unfortunately, he didn't start against us because he was coming off an injury.
Mhm.
But yeah, we had a nice little chat after the game. Just talking about how each of us are doing in our new places, and he seems to be enjoying it over in Texas, and I'm enjoying it here. So we were just happy for each other, and we were happy to finally both see each other playing on the field, even though it wasn't with each other. So
Right.
Yeah. So one of the current Union players that's played in the USL mentioned to us that the biggest adjustment was the difference in level of competition, and also added that the amount and quality of travel that there is in the USL compared to MLS was
yes.
different also. What have your experiences with these differences? What have they been for you since you've arrived at Colorado Springs?
Yeah, look, so I'm not one to complain about little things, right? So I
Right.
just play, I just want to play games
Yeah.
and be happy, you know what I mean? And that was the number one determining factor of why I wanted to come here. I wanted to start enjoying my football again and, kind of just getting myself back in the rhythm. So when it comes to the travel, of course it's different. MLS, they have a ton of money in that league, especially now with all the big players coming over. Every game in Philly, we leave on a Friday and we're home on Saturday night or midnight by, the next day on Sunday. So you come home directly after the game. Here, obviously it's just, you got to stay an extra day. You're not flying charter, which is, I guess, I know there's a lot of guys in MLS that wouldn't like that. Personally, I never really cared. It's a plane, we're both sitting down waiting however many hours you have to wait for. Yeah, sure, it could be a bit of an inconvenience, but at the end of the day, I'm thankful to be in the position I'm in, playing this job professionally, making money to do so. So I'm not going to complain about those little things. Now the quality, of course, yeah, the quality is different, but I think a lot of people, what they need to know is that the quality in USL is really, really growing. And I noticed that immediately when I came here because the last time I had played in USL was in 2018, 2019. Before MLS Next got introduced, and that's a different level as well, So MLS Next is more of like younger guys, academy guys trying to break through the first team. So it's almost like a better academy system, when it comes to MLS Next. And it's great. There's a lot of guys developing there, but you don't have a lot of guys who played a lot of pro games there with a lot of experience. So in USL now, they're getting a lot of ex-MLS guys, even more than they were before. I know they're paying guys a lot better than what they were, so it's more attractive for guys to come to this league. I would say the biggest difference for me, though, would probably be just the end product. If you're in the MLS, mistakes get punished a lot quicker. Here they could get punished quick, but I would say not as consistently as they do in MLS. You have to be a bit more sharper. But for me, in some senses, the games here, through the course of 90 minutes, there are some things that are more difficult than than there would be in the MLS game. Here, there's a lot of running. And it's, for me, coming from Philly, that's a pressing style system where we run a lot.
Right.
I had a harder time running here than I did there,
Hmm.
and it's more because there's no real pace of the game. It's kind of end to end, so it can get open at points, and there can be a lot of counterattacks, a lot of breakaways, and it kind of just goes back and forth. So a lot of the games could be entertaining for that reason. Whereas in MLS, it's a bit more tactical at points. Sometimes guys want to sit in, they don't want to go, all out from the start. But at least with our style here, if we go on the road, if we're playing the top team in the league, we have the same approach every single game. And here, any given thing can happen on any given day. There's no real separation from the top of the table to the bottom. Obviously, with points, there is, but every game is close. Whereas in MLS, see in Inter Miami, they're playing the worst team in the East or the West, and it's like a 3-4-0 game. There's not a lot of it there, so the level is very marginal here, and the margins are very thin. So it's been a great experience. And like I said, I feel like the games here, they're very entertaining to play in. I don't know what it's like to watch them, because I'm not a spectator, but being in them, it feels like there's always constant action, and, it goes end to end.
And it's interesting you say that, because when we were in Las Vegas watching you play, that's the one thing. We've been there a couple times when we've been out there on vacation, and so we've seen a couple USL games. And that's one thing I do notice is it's a lot of back and forth, a lot of action. And
that game was very back and forth.
That was
too.
a back and forth game. Yeah.
So that was one of the games I got rotated out in. We had a 3-game week, and then just watching that one from the sideline, actually, I was like, I wonder if the games that I play in, if they all look like this. Because I feel like if I'm in this game right now, I would be absolutely finished, just because of how much it was going from end to end. And watching that was fun, even though, we didn't end up getting the win, but I thought we did great. And we ended up they're coming back into that in the last couple of minutes. But yeah, like you said, games can change really fast here too. We were dominating, and then they took the lead, so it's a fight the entire 90. You're never comfortable. I felt with Philly, some games that I would play in, you have real control of the game. You feel very comfortable at points. That this team isn't going to score on us, or we're going to win this game, and it's only the 60th minute. You know what I mean? Here, you never know here, because there's so much back and forth, and anything could happen.
So for people in Philly listening, that have never been to Colorado Springs, how would you describe the community first and foremost? And then we spent some time out there. We've been to Pikes Peak, Garden of the Gods, all those places. But are there any places, if somebody's coming in, maybe they're coming to watch you play Colorado Springs, that you'd recommend them check out while they're in town?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, as soon as I got here, like I said, I wasn't familiar at all with what the city looked like, and neither was my fiance. So we're both from the East. She's from New York. I'm from Philly. So we're used to, that city vibe, the city life. We lived in Philly before we came here. So in the middle of the city. So coming here, it was definitely a big difference. But for us, we never cared about the city life. We're not really like people that go out too much. So we just like a nice, safe environment that's, beautiful, which it is here, So there's a lot of mountains. There's a lot of different animals. I got to be careful with my 2 dogs when I take them on walks, because they could be snatched up by a coyote or a mountain lion, because there's literally mountains right out back of my house here. And then recommendations, Garden of the Gods for me is one of the nicest things I've ever seen. It's beautiful. It's just you in the middle of the desert with a ton of huge orange rocks and canyons. That's what it looks like to me. So it's beautiful. And we went quite a few times. We took our dogs there on a few walks, and it just seems like it's a really happy place. Everyone here is like really happy. Sometimes back east, you catch someone on the wrong day, and a little snarky comment or whatever. But I haven't experienced any of that here, and we're just a little taken back by it. We really enjoy it, and when it comes to our everyday life, it's been really happy outside of the game, because obviously that's important as well. We're not just athletes; we're human beings as well.
Right.
And the number one priority is health and safety and happiness, So for me, those things help translate onto the field, your performance. If you're not having a happy life outside of the field, it's going to be tough when you get in there, So I'm happy that I've been able to translate that in both worlds.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, that's something we noticed when we went out to Colorado last year, how nice people were.
That is, and
super nice. And it's almost like sometimes it's too nice. It's like
it is.
Why are you being so nice to me? But I'm not going to complain. So
no, I mean, my coaching mentor lives out there. He worked for USA Swim for many years before he retired. And like when we went out and visited him, I was like, I even said to him, I said, Coach, you're like the happiest I've seen you. Like he's like, I love it out here. I'm not leaving.
Right.
So it's a wonderful place that we even encourage people to check out. Even if you're going on vacation, you're going to Denver, it's 45 minutes down the road. Go check it out.
And it's a really, I'm surprised it's not more known because it's a really low. You know what I mean? And originally, before I even came here, my lack of knowledge on this place, I thought it was basically in Denver. I didn't know that it was that far, So when I first came, like I said, I didn't know Denver was like an hour away. So we flew straight into Colorado Springs though. So we saw it immediately, And like I said, it was really different from what Denver looks like. Cause here it's desert, but mountains, And I've never experienced a place like that before. It's either one or the other, So it's got a nice mix of both. And then it's also, they say, one of the sunniest places in America. So it's always sunny here. Even when it's cold, the sun's always out. So it's not as bad as it would be, if it's cloudy. So.
Yeah. So what has stood out to you the most about the supporters culture for the Colorado Springs Switchbacks since you've arrived there?
Yeah, really surprised. Like I said, the last time I played in USL was 2018, 2019, around those times. So I wasn't really familiar with how good the supporting system would be here, the fans, and it's been excellent. I mean, we have a stadium, I think it seats 8,000 and 9,000 a game, and it fills out every single weekend. The only time it didn't fill out was my first game was when it was like a little blizzard outside. So it's amazing. And obviously the stadium is really nice, brand new stadium, nice and small. So it feels really packed when all those fans come in. And it's one of the better atmospheres in the USL for sure.
So moving forward to the rest of the season, what makes this team special? You kind of touched a little bit on it, but also, what do you think the team's capable of? I mean, you said it. The USL is really tight, a tight league in terms of competition. How special do you feel this team is?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things that we need to just flatten out when it comes to being a championship team. That's what we all have aspirations. We want to win, the whole thing. And obviously, in my opinion, if we didn't want to, we would be doing the wrong thing. I think it's always extremely important to set the bar high going into the year. So, some things that I feel like we just need to continue doing is continue holding each other accountable, because that's how you create a tight environment, camaraderie within your team. You know what I mean? So if you don't hold each other accountable, you'll start to get individuals who think they can do whatever they want. The style of soccer that we play, it's a very team-oriented game. There's not individuals. Everybody needs to do their job with our pressing. If one person's off, it can destroy the entire thing. I'm not sure if you guys follow, but whoever has been following can see that when we press right, it's very, very hard to get through us, and we cause a lot of problems. So for me, especially on our run that we were on, I think we have what it takes, and Chambers does. The whole group believes that we do. We have what it takes to be a championship team, and it's the little things like when we're in Vegas, when we're down 3-2 on the road, being able to come back and salvage a point out of that. That's the things that teams do that end up, going really far, instead of just giving in and saying, oh, we're on the road, it's hot, we're tired. Let's just think about the next game. We always find a way to, get back into the match. And for us too, another thing that's really important for us is scoring first, because score first, we haven't been beaten, so just continuing to find ways to have the upper hand. I know at home how strong we are. I have complete confidence that, we'll take care of business here when we have to. So I think just being able to continue with the mentality that we have on the road, especially going for all 3 points. We never go on the road and say it's okay to walk away with a point. We won all 3 no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's a huge thing, because I know some teams take the approach where, oh, let's try to play conservative and defensive and maybe just salvage a point out of this. But for us, we won all 3, because why not? There's no reason why you can't get all 3, when Real Madrid goes to play on the road in La Liga, I'm sure they're not saying, let's get a point, those are what top teams do. Top teams go and they want to win every single game. So for me, it's just about having that mentality and continuing with our really hard work and training during the week, being coachable, because, like I said, we have to be able to be on the same page going forward in the system that we play.
All right. So finally, for yourself, Matt, what are your goals that you have for yourself professionally in your career?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think currently right now, I don't like to think far ahead. I don't like to think about what next year holds, because I don't know what next year holds. Union still holds my option, so I don't know what's going to happen. But where I am right now, I'm happy doing what I'm doing here. I'm happy that I'm playing here. So short term, I want to win with this team. I want to win every single game that we play in. And for me, any game that we don't win, it's a failure, because I think we have the quality to do so. Especially with the performances we've been putting in. We went to New Mexico. It was supposed to be the best team in the West, and we have more than enough opportunities to win that game. So we're there. I believe we are going forward. I just want to have a really good year this year to set me up with whatever comes next. I don't want to say I want to go here, I want to go there, because at the end of the day, I would be doing myself, the team, the coaching staff a disservice to have my mind elsewhere, because they brought me in here on a loan to help the team right now. So that's what I'm trying to do. And, hopefully, we can accomplish what we're set out to do.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, this has been a wonderful conversation. Again, thank you so much for your time. Can you let people know where they can follow you on social media?
Yes. Give me 1 sec. Let me just make sure what my handle is. So my handle is MattReal3 on Instagram, and on Twitter it is Matt_Real11. But thank you guys again for having me. It's been a great time, and I'm wishing the Union the best of luck the rest of the season. Obviously, I'm still technically a Union player. I'm watching every single game.
Yep.
So hopefully we can start to turn things around, because I know it's been a bit bumpy, but I know that team has the quality and the leadership to definitely turn things around. We've been in bad situations before. It's a good thing that people are getting this angry, because they have high expectations, which is good, because the fact that we were on top every single year, a top 3, top 3 team in the East every single year. Every single team has years like this. It's abnormal. You can't expect a team to be there's years where a team wins the MLS Cup one year, and then the next year they're not in playoffs. You know what I mean? So for us, we have never missed playoffs in the recent time that I've been on Philly. So I think for the fan base, I just think we need to be patient and just give the guys time to figure out what we need to do in order to get back on winning terms.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well said. Yeah,
that's kind of where we're at as well. So
yeah, it's been a time. We're heading up to Montreal actually for the game. So so hopefully it'll start to turn around. But we wish you all the best too, and hope your season continues well. And yeah, it was great seeing you play out in Las Vegas, and to just follow how you've been doing and how Colorado Springs has been doing. So continue success, and it's been a pleasure. We appreciate your time.
So thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys for having me on. All right, guys.
See ya.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.